The battlefield silence. The war had ended, not with a bang, but with a silence so heavy it felt like the ground itself refused to breathe. Smoke drifted over the broken valley. Metal, ash, blood, and fire scattered everywhere. In the center of it, all lay Commander Vena, the alien warrior of the Thal'ari Empire, wounded, unmoving, and waiting for death. Vena's side had lost. She had led the charge with honor, fought blade to blade, faced fire without fear. Now, with one arm torn and her chest plate cracked, she had nothing left but breath and pride. "Let me die," she whispered to no one. "Let my ancestors take me." That was the Thal'ari way. To fall in battle was noble. To be rescued, especially by the enemy, was shame. But someone was walking toward her. Heavy boots, slow steps. Not a Thal'ari, not one of her own. A human. Sergeant Elias Wren. A battlefield medic moved carefully over the corpses. He didn't expect to find anyone alive. But then he saw her. Tall, armored, silver skin now bruised and burning. Her eyes still open, still aware. He knelt beside her. "You're alive." She turned her head barely. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice raw. "I am finished." "Not today," Elias said. He reached into his medkit. She tried to push his hand away, her fingers trembling. "This is dishonor," she hissed. "Leave me. Let me die proud." But Elias didn't flinch. "I don't care about your rules," he said. "I see someone breathing. That's enough for me." Her vision blurred, pain crackled through her body. "But still," she growled, "you should not care." "That's the difference," Elias said quietly. "I do." He injected her with a stabilizer. Her body jerked, her breath caught, but her eyes never left his. There was no hate in them, just confusion. "Why would a human save a Thal'ari?" "Because you're still a person." Above them, distant aircraft buzzed across the sky. Elias knew he had minutes, maybe less. He looked down at her again. Blood pooled around her back. But he saw something else. Something deeper than wounds. She was tired. Not of war, of being alone. Vena closed her eyes. She had fought all her life, lived to bring glory. But now, a human knelt beside her, not as an enemy, but as a shield. And for the first time in years, she whispered not to the ancestors, but to the present. "If you pull me back," she struggled for words. "What comes next?" Elias stood, gripping her hand gently. "You'll find out." And with that, he lifted her broken body onto his back. As her world faded, she thought, "Only one thing, he did not let me die." A warrior's shame. Vena woke to cold light and the sound of humming machines. The smell of metal and human disinfectants filled the air. She was not on a battlefield anymore. She was in a medical bay, wires connected to her arm, a breathing patch. On her neck and across from her, sitting silently on a stool, was the human who carried her out of death. Sergeant Elias Wren. Vena tried to sit up. Pain stabbed through her chest. Elias was already there, steadying her. "Easy. You were cut open and half dead." "I was dead," she said, jaw tight. "And you brought shame." "I brought you out," Elias replied calmly. "You're alive. That matters more." Vena looked away, her fists clenched under the medical blanket. "You don't understand, human. My people, we do not accept rescue after defeat." "Yeah, I read your culture file," Elias muttered. "Honor in death. No second chances. Fine philosophy, until it's you on the table." She glared at him. "I did not ask for a second chance." "No," he said. "But I gave it anyway." Silence passed between them, her breath shallow, his gaze steady. She hated him, and hated herself more for feeling relief. Days passed. She healed, slowly, quietly, but word had already spread. A Thal'ari commander rescued by a human. Worse, nursed, back to life by one? Her people would call her weak, unclean. Elias saw it on her face every time she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. One afternoon, she broke the silence. "Why did you save me?" He looked up from his data pad. "Because I've seen too many good beings die for nothing." "I am not good," she whispered. "I have taken lives." "So have I." He stood and walked toward her. "You and I, we both wore armor, followed orders, lost friends. That doesn't make us evil." "Then what does it make us?" He didn't answer, not right away. Then, softly, "Tired." Vena said nothing, but for the first time she didn't look away. Later that night, Elias brought her outside onto the recovery deck. She stared up at the stars. Cold wind brushed against her skin. "They say your people don't feel fear," he said. "We are trained to rise above it." "But do you?" She hesitated, then answered, "Only when no one is watching." That confession sat between them like a fragile truth. No more soldier, no more enemy, just two survivors. "So what now?" she asked. "I can never go back." "Then maybe forward is better." But forward was not easy. Not when a message arrived the next morning from her people. A formal declaration. "Vena, daughter of House Thal'ari, your name is stripped, your image erased. You are no longer Thal'ari." She read it twice. Hands shaking. Eyes dry. Then she turned to Elias and whispered, "Now I truly am nothing." He looked at her, stepped closer, and said the only thing that made sense. "Then let's build something new." A name. Without a people. Her name was gone. Not forgotten. Erased. Vena stared at the message again, even though she had already memorized every word. Stripped of title, stripped of honor, stripped of bloodline. The Thal'ari didn't exile people. They unmade them. And now she was nothing. Elias stood quietly by the door. He didn't say anything at first, just let her sit in silence. Because he knew this kind of pain didn't need noise, it needed space. Finally she spoke, her voice was hollow. "What am I now, Elias? I was a commander, a warrior, a daughter of Thal'ari." "You're still Vena," he said. "No, that name is dead, like my past." "Then we give you a new one," he said gently. She looked up, surprised. "You can't just give names, human." "We do it all the time," Elias smirked. "Nicknames, call signs, rebirth." That night they walked the base perimeter together. Her steps were slower now, not weak, just thoughtful. The stars above didn't feel so far anymore. "What would you name me?" she asked. "Honestly?" "Honestly." He glanced sideways. "Phoenix." She blinked. "That is not even a Thal'ari word." "No," he said. "It's human. It means something that dies in fire but rises again stronger." Vena didn't respond at first, then quietly, "Phoenix." She didn't say it was beautiful, but she didn't reject it either. Over the next week, she stopped wearing her old armor. She began training again, slowly, with Elias, not for war, just for balance. He taught her how to use human weapons. She taught him how to read Thal'ari body language. They laughed, argued, trained, they healed, together. But not everyone was pleased. Rumors spread through the base. Why is a Thal'ari walking free? She was their top killer, wasn't she? What if she turns? One day, a group of young soldiers blocked their path, 4 of them, armed. "She shouldn't be here," one snapped. "She's the reason my brother's gone." Vena didn't flinch. "Then strike," she said softly. "If it brings him peace." The man raised his hand, but Elias stepped between them. "Enough!" He looked at all of them. "You lost. People, so did she. But she didn't come here to fight. She came here to survive." "She doesn't belong," one soldier growled. "Maybe not," Vena said. But neither did your ancestors until they built a world from the ashes. The group left, uncertain, not convinced but no longer sure of their hate. Later that evening, Elias found Vena on the deck again. She sat alone, looking up at the sky. "You didn't have to defend me." "Yes, I did." "Why?" He sat beside her. "Because if I had fallen and your people saved me, I'd want someone to stand up when I couldn't." She turned to him, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight, and for the first time since the war, she smiled. "Phoenix, I'll try to rise." Fire beneath the skin. The simulation chamber hummed with energy. Inside it, Phoenix, once known as Vena, stood still, staring at the program parameters. A combat test, not against soldiers, against herself. Elias stood at the observation window, arms crossed. He had recommended the session, not as punishment, but as truth. "You need to know," he'd said. "If the fire inside you is still for battle or survival." She had nodded once, not because she was ready, but because she had no choice except forward. The chamber changed, holograms snapping to life. It was a recreation of her last battle as a Thal'ari commander. Same cliffs, same smoke, same charge of enemy tanks. Except now, the enemy was her, a mirror image. Same armor, same stance, same fury in the eyes. "Begin," the AI voice said coldly. The clone charged, so did she. Blades clashed, dust rose. Heat pressed against her like a second skin. She was fast, but her old self was faster. Her movements were sharper, less hesitant, more brutal. Phoenix blocked. 2 strikes ducked under the third, but her clone kicked her across the platform. She rolled, coughing blood. Elias watched, heart in his throat. "You're not losing," he muttered. "You're changing." Inside the sim, Phoenix rose slowly. Pain buzzed through her ribs, but there was no fear, only understanding. "You are who I was," she whispered. "But I am not her anymore." She ran at the clone again, but not with rage, with focus. This time she didn't try to overpower. She redirected. She flowed. She adapted, like Elias had taught her, and with one final pivot, she drove her blade through the clone's chest. The simulation froze. The hologram faded. She dropped to her knees, sweat pouring down her back, breathing hard, shaking, but alive. The chamber opened. Elias walked in, slow and steady. He knelt beside her. "You okay?" She nodded. "I fought myself today," she said quietly. "And I let her go." Later that night, as wind howled outside the base, Phoenix sat alone in the gym, not training, just breathing. She looked at her hands. They had once held honor, then blood. Now, they were hers. Elias entered, carrying 2 drinks. He handed her one. "You scared the hell out of me today." "I scared myself," she admitted, "but you won." "No," she said, "I chose not to lose." They sat in silence, not uncomfortable, just real. She glanced sideways. "Why are you always here?" "Because you never asked me to leave." She smirked. "You humans are stubborn." "We have our moments." They both laughed quietly. Then, her voice dropped. "Thank you for helping me find the fire again, not for killing, but for healing." He nodded. "That fire, it's yours now, not theirs." The breach. Within. The alarm shrieked through the compound at midnight. Red lights pulsed in every corridor. Phoenix opened her eyes immediately, already moving. She didn't need to ask what was happening. She could feel it in her bones. Something had gone wrong. Elias burst into her room seconds later, rifle in hand. "Outer gate's been breached," he said. "Internal sabotage. We've got hostiles inside." "Thal'ari?" "No, worse. Mercs. Human traders working with rogue species. They know the layout." Phoenix grabbed her curved blade, the last relic from her old life. Then let's remind them why humans and Thal'ari stopped killing each other. As they ran through the corridors, she noticed the faces: fear, panic, confusion. These weren't battle-hardened warriors. They were scientists, engineers, civilians, people who trusted this base to keep them safe. And now it was a trap. They reached the infirmary first. Gunfire echoed down the hall. A squad of mercenaries had cornered 3 medics, hands up, terrified. Elias didn't hesitate. Bang, 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 2 down. Phoenix flanked the 3rd, her blade silent but final. One of the medics trembled as he looked up at her glowing eyes. Thank you." She helped him stand. "Get out. Hide in the maintenance shaft. Seal it behind you." The battle pushed inward. Elias and Phoenix led a group of 6 defenders toward the reactor core. If the mercs reached that, they could destroy everything. As they crept through a dim hallway, Phoenix suddenly paused. She turned, eyes narrowing. Trap. A heartbeat later, the ceiling above them exploded. Gunfire rained from above. Elias went down with a cry, his leg bleeding. "I'm good, just go." But Phoenix ignored him. She charged the ambushers, blade flashing, cutting through the smoke like a ghost. 2 attackers screamed before they hit the floor. The last one aimed at her back. Elias, limping, raised his sidearm and fired 1 clean shot. Silence. She pulled him to his feet. "You can barely walk. You can barely breathe. Then we'll die together." "No," Elias said, panting. "We live together." They reached the core room just in time. 3 mercs were planting charges. Phoenix didn't give them the chance to finish. She struck like lightning, blade through armor, fury in motion. Elias covered her, gritting his teeth, blood soaking his uniform. When the last body hit the floor, Phoenix dropped to her knees beside him. "You're bleeding too fast. Tell me something I don't know." She pulled open, his med kit, fingers trembling. She had seen 1,000 wounds in her time. But this one, his, made her heart ache in a way she couldn't understand. She patched him up as best she could. He squeezed her hand. "Hey, Phoenix. Yeah? You're not what I expected. Neither are you." They stared at each other for a moment. The room around them flickered, flashing red lights and humming machines. And yet, for that single second, peace. Later, when backup finally arrived and the base was secured, the other humans looked at Phoenix differently. Not like a threat, not like a relic of war, but like one of them. And for the first time in her life, she felt something strange and powerful in her chest. Belonging. The heart that burns, the days after the attack were strangely quiet. Too quiet. Phoenix sat on the edge of Elias's hospital bed. He was healing, but slowly. The bullet had torn through muscle and nearly hit an artery. Elias kept joking that it was nothing. Phoenix wasn't laughing. She hadn't left his side for 3 nights. "Your blood pressure is stabilizing," she said, checking the monitor. "You'll live." "No thanks to you," Elias smirked. "You fight like a god, Phoenix, but your bedside manner's terrifying." She rolled her eyes. "You should have died 3 times. Humans are stubborn." "So are Thal'ari," he replied softly. "Or, at least one of them is." She looked away at that. There was something deep in her chest again. That same ache she couldn't name. It was worse than any battlefield wound. Not pain. Something else. Elias noticed the silence. "You okay?" "No," she said truthfully. "I don't understand this. I was ready to die, but you pulled me back." "Because you matter," he said simply. "Not because you're a weapon, not because of the war, just because you do." Phoenix stood and walked to the window. Outside, the training yard was full of young recruits. A few looked her way, no longer with fear, now with curiosity and something else. Respect. "When I was dying on that field," she began slowly, "I heard your voice before I saw your face." Elias blinked. "You heard me?" She nodded. "It wasn't your words. It was your spirit. It pulled me back. like fire in the cold. He didn't speak. He just listened. Among the Thal'ari, we are taught that death with honor is the highest fate. But you showed me there is something higher. To live, even when it hurts. A medic entered the room, breaking the moment. Lieutenant Elias, Commander wants you both in the war chamber. Elias sighed. Guess the universe doesn't let heroes rest. Phoenix looked at him with a rare, quiet smile. Then let's go remind the universe who we are. They walked side by side into the war chamber. The room was filled with humans, alien diplomats, and defense officers. Phoenix felt all eyes on her. But this time, it didn't bother her. Commander Reeves stepped forward. Lieutenant, Warrior, Phoenix, you two saved this station. We owe you more than medals. We don't want medals, Elias said. We want peace. A long silence. Then Phoenix added, and justice, for every species still trapped in old wars. A hologram lit up between them, showing enemy fleets gathering on the outer rim. This wasn't over. In fact, it had just begun. And yet Phoenix didn't feel afraid, because this time, she wasn't fighting alone. She had something stronger than pride, stronger than death. A reason to live. The warrior's choice, the war drums echoed again. On the edge of the Andros sector, a massive alien fleet prepared for a final assault. The enemies of peace were not done. They had seen the alliance between humans and Thal'ari, and they feared it. Phoenix stood at the edge of the command deck, her armor shining under dim lights. Not the old Thal'ari war armor. Something new, human-forged, alien-touched. Hers, Elias, stood behind her, his side fully healed. They'll come for blood. Phoenix didn't look back. Then we'll give them a reason to fear ours. The Allied command wanted her on defense. They feared another incident. They still didn't trust a Thal'ari warrior turned rebel, but Phoenix made her decision clear. If I must die again, she said, it will be on my terms, not theirs. The day of the battle came like thunder. As the sky tore with plasma, fire, Phoenix dropped from a shuttle with her unit, half human, half alien, the first blended force of its kind. Blades drawn, guns locked, eyes burning with purpose. In the chaos, she saw the enemy general, Zircon, a beast of iron and venom. He had once commanded legions that raised entire colonies. Now, he faced her. You should have stayed dead, Thal'ari scum, he spat. She smiled coldly. And you should have feared the ones who brought me back. They clashed like twin storms, steel against fang, light against shadow. She was hurt, cut deep, but she didn't fall. Not this time. Not while Elias and her new brothers and sisters were still fighting. Not while her second life still burned bright. She outpaced the monster, outthought him. And finally, she dropped to one knee, only to drive. Her plasma dagger up through his chest. Zircon screamed, then fell. The battlefield went silent. Not with fear, but with awe. Phoenix turned, blood on her face, breathing heavy, but standing tall. The others followed her gaze. She wasn't just a warrior now. She was something more, a symbol. Back at the station, as lights flickered and repairs began, Phoenix stood with Elias outside the medical bay. Both watched the stars through the glass. So, Elias said softly, what now? Phoenix smiled, faint and rare. Now, I choose. Choose what? To live. Not just to survive. Not just to fight. You sure? Elias asked. Yes, because someone once reminded me, she paused, that a warrior doesn't end with a wound. She begins with it. She turned to him. You brought me back, Elias. He stepped closer. You brought yourself back. I just held the line. They both smiled. No more words were needed. The stars were vast. But Phoenix had found her place. Not in war, not in death, in choice. And in that choice, she was finally free.